This should be played at high volume.
Welcome back to the Pit Stop on Tobacco Road Sports Radio. I am your host, Randy Pettitt, racing's greatest showman. Folks in these parts know me for my voice over at the Madhouse, which had a starring role in big league stock car racing this past weekend. And kudos to all the folks at the famous Quarter Mile for a job well done, and for all the great fans that showed up, whether they're local fans or folks that traveled as far away as Australia, Canada, the UK, and various other places to watch the clash and get a taste of the madness. Job well done. Well, I think we're all a little weary of hearing about that little Quarter Mile. And tonight we're going to shift our gears here on the Pit Stop on the Tobacco Road Sports Radio Network. And we're going to talk about one of the best touring series in the country. And it's not the NASCAR Cup Series. It's a series that I was a part of back in the day. It was called the Hooters Pro Cup Series. It later just became the Pro Cup Series and had various names until Chip Loftin sold the series. Jack McNally bought it. He kept it going with the Pro Cup cars, and then eventually shifted gears and brought in late model stock cars and formed what is now the Cars Late Model Stock Car Tour. And now they also have the Pro Late Models that race throughout the Carolinas and on the East Coast every year. It's certainly one of the premier touring series in the country. And we're delighted tonight to have a young man that all the fans, both at the Madhouse and at Caraway Speedway and other tracks in the region, they know his name. He is a rising star. And if my notes are right, he'll turn 17 years old on March the 28th, just around the corner. He is a son of Brian Loftin and a grandson of Bobby Loftin. Both ran the modifieds over at the famous Quarter Mile. And this young man, 17 years old on March 28th, we're delighted to have on the Pit Stop program tonight, Carson Loftin. Carson, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you, Randy. I'm really excited to be on.
And news broke last year at North Wilkesboro Speedway that this young man who grew up immersed in the modifieds has decided to take one of the most iconic rides in all of late model stock car racing. He will be driving the famous red number 22 out of the shops of the AutosByNelson.com crew, owned by Barry Nelson, the automobile magnate in Southern Virginia. Carson, wow, what an opportunity for you. That car has won some of the biggest races on the East Coast in late model stock car racing. And, man, that had to be a real shock to modified fans here in the greater Triad area. Tell us about how it all came about.
Yeah, to start out with, I've prayed for opportunities like this. You know, our good Lord above has blessed me with a lot through my career, my short career so far, and with this opportunity. At Caraway Speedway last July, I was just hanging out with my buddies watching the race, and I got a neighbor that works for Barry on the race cars, and he let me meet all the crew and met Barry and the crew chief, and one thing led to another. We stayed in contact, and got my foot in the door, and it all worked out. So, like I said, just super thankful for how blessed I am, and Barry Nelson and Matthew Eshelman, just everybody that's been involved in this, and really looking forward to this year and what we can do.
Well, the folks listening tonight, we'll bring you up to speed a little bit on that number 22 car that is out of the shops of Nelson Racing. Not the Nelson Racing in Kernersville, which is famous in these parts, but the Nelson Racing up in the greater Martinsville, Virginia area. Barry Nelson, an automobile dealer up there, had this team. My good buddy Timothy Peters, who starred in the NASCAR Truck Series, Ty Gibbs, who is now in the Cup Series, Sammy Smith, who's in Xfinity Racing this year, Cale Gale, Brandon Pierce, Jonathan Schaefer, Landon Huffman, Caden Honeycutt, among the many names that have driven that car. But Connor Hall was in that car last year, Carson, and Connor won one race on the Cars Tour, had 11 top 5 finishes and 17 starts and 2 pole positions. And probably his biggest win of the year came when he won the Thunder Road 200, which is the first leg of the Virginia Triple Crown. So we all know that's a great car. That car finished second with young Connor Hall in it last year in the points. And, of course, Connor, a two-time NASCAR national champion at the Division I level. So this has to be, for you, the opportunity of a lifetime. This car won 3 Tour championships with Kernersville's Bobby McCarty driving it. So what are your thoughts, man, of going from that open-wheel modified car, and we'll talk about that a little further in the interview, but hopping in this number 22 car, you're just soon to be 17 years old. Tell us a little bit about your thoughts so far.
I'm really looking forward to it. You know, I knew coming in it was going to be a challenge, and it still is. You know, I've got one late model stock race under my belt in the South Carolina 400 where we started 33rd. We were the last car to make the show in the heat race and ended up driving up to 5th. So, you know, it was definitely a challenge. I feel like my biggest issue, I would say, was overthinking everything. You know, I just got to let it flow and let it come to me and keep learning every race, and I think you're going to be really successful.
Now, I was fortunate enough to announce a few of your grandfather's races over at the Madhouse where he won, and, of course, more of your dad's races where he won there and on the Smart Modified Tour. So you grew up in the sport. I understand you got started when you were really little, but you took a pretty big break from racing. Much like your contemporary Slate Myers, you guys are similar in age. You took up basketball and got totally away from racing. So what got you back in it, and when did you get back in it?
Well, my dad won the Hayes Jewelers 200 at Bowman Gray. You know, that's kind of when my spark came back. And then, you know, we had COVID and all. And then when the Smart Modified Tour got brought back, my dad was in the 15 car for Shady Grady Racing. And his first race out, he won. And I knew right then I got the bug, as some would say. So, yeah, my love for racing has been ever since I was little, hanging out in the shop with all the guys. But I'd say that moment at Caraway that night definitely sparked me.
Folks, you're listening to the Pit Stop on the Tobacco Road Sports Radio Network. I'm Randy Pettitt, a local icon announcing here in our part of the community, and I'm talking with a teenage phenom. He is turning 17 years old on March 28th. His name is Carson Loftin. He is known in these parts for his prowess in a modified car. Now, Carson, I got to know you a little better when I started working over at Caraway Speedway. You were the 2022 Caraway Speedway 602 modified champion. You were just 13 years old, and you beat out your good friend Cody Norman by only 4 points. And, man, I went back and looked a little at that 2022 season down at Caraway. You finished in the top 5 in every start. Wow, that's impressive for 13 years old, and you bagged 2 wins in your first championship. What do you remember about that first full season in a modified down at Caraway?
It was a lot of learning. You know, there was Caraway's always done a really great job about, you know, the 602 modifieds and keeping that division healthy. So, you know, when we first saw that the 602 modified division was healthy, we decided to build a car. And, you know, one thing led to another. You know, we ran a full season at Caraway and won a couple of races and got us a championship. That year, I learned a ton, you know, and carried that into 2023 and this year. You know, it was definitely the start that I needed for my racing career.
Now, Carson, last year was not your first year on the Smart Modified Tour. Actually, in 2023, you finished a very impressive 3rd in the Smart Modified Tour points. Caught a lot of people off guard with such a high finish for such a young man. And you almost won a couple races, had a pair of second-place finishes. So you proved very early on that you were a driver and a team to be dealt with. But last year, man, wow. You know, we go back to Caraway first, and you won a championship there by only 4 points over Cody Norman. You won it by the slimmest of margins. Well, we're going to fast forward to last year, and you lost that Smart Tour Modified Championship by the slimmest of margins, just 6 points over your buddy Luke Baldwin, who eventually became the champion. But, man, what a start you had last year. That was the good news. You guys won 5 of the first 7 races, and everybody in the pit area was pointing to that machine that you're driving down there and going, what are they doing? What have they found? You guys were fast everywhere you went, and, man, you put it all together and won 5 of the first 7 races. That's the best start I've seen on the Smart Modified Tour, this version of it, in my time following it.
Yeah, you know, after 2023, at the very end of 2023, we got really hot, and I got a lot of confidence, and I think that's really what sparked our success at the beginning of 2024. It's just the confidence I had in myself. That's probably one of the biggest things, like I said, coming into 2024, the confidence in my team and myself. And I think my team really plays a big role in that too, just them believing in me. So, you know, we won the first opening race, and we went and won one for Zach at the second race. We kept clicking them off, and it was really awesome, man. And just didn't end the year quite how I wanted to, but it just fires me for more fuel in the tank for this year to try and go chase the Car Store Championship.
Now, Carson, tell me, for the folks that are not familiar with the Smart Modified Tour, the championship format, if I remember correctly, talking with you about it, it went down to that last race. And whoever finished ahead in the Smart 3, and you were one of those 3 at the end of the season, whoever finished ahead of the other 2 was the champion, right? Much like the Cup Series.
Correct. Yes, it's elimination format, and the top 3 in points at the race before the final one is reset to 0, and whoever finishes in front of the other.
Well, the format is what it is, but I imagine from your perspective and your team's perspective, that was probably a little frustrating having that great a season and come down to that one race and maybe you stub your toe a little bit and lose the title. But what did you learn? You learned something from winning that title at Caraway by just a little. What did you learn last year by losing it a little that you can apply to 2025?
A ton. I honestly feel like losing that championship, just like I say, puts more fuel in the tank for this coming year, and it's going to make winning a lot more of a blessing. And I just can't wait to get back at it this year and starting this weekend at Florence.
Now, you said you've already had a little bit of seat time in that late model stock car, and you drove modifieds for several years of your career. No fenders on those. What was it like getting in that late model stock car down at Florence Motor Speedway? You had fenders, and of course that track is famous for having no walls. So you went from no fenders to having fenders, and from having walls to no walls. That was quite a start to your late model stock car career.
For sure, it was really weird because I'm used to being able to see my chrome horn out the windshield. Couldn't see much from what I'm compared to. But it was really weird, but I learned a ton, and Florence is one of my favorite tracks. Like I say, really looking forward to kicking our season off right where we left off last year and hopefully get 4 spots better and be in victory lane.
Now, Carson, the Cars Tour in 2025, one of the great things about folks here in the Triad, they can go watch you guys in action. You get kicked off March the 1st down in Jacksonville, North Carolina. My buddy Anthony Goodyear and the New River All-American Speedway down there. A great track, great group of folks run that racetrack. I'm sure they'd love for all the folks listening to the Pit Stop, whether they're listening on live radio or listening on Tobacco Road Sports Radio or catching us on the internet in some way. That race is just around the corner, man. It's on March the 1st, and I know you're bound to be pretty excited for that season opener. For
sure. The Icebreakers, that one of the highlight races of the year for late model stocks, in my opinion, for my short career in late model stocks. I'd say that's one of the highlights of the year. You want to kick off your season on a high note and carry some momentum into the Car Store season. So I'm really looking forward to getting there Saturday. And like I say, trying to put it in victory lane.
You have you grew up over at the Madhouse watching the chaos on that tight quarter mile. You guys on the Cars Tour will get a taste of a little different configuration of a quarter mile, but a great track in its own right. You go to Wake County Speedway on March 29th. Have you ever raced there, and what do you expect?
No, I haven't. I expect a lot of like Bowman Gray. I watched the last year's race. It was really rough. I think the gloves are going to come off, and it's going to be a really good show. If you can't come out and watch at Wake County, then you can tune in live on Flow Racing. All the events are going to be streamed live on Flow Racing this year.
And Carson, you guys will be racing at one of my old stomping grounds up at Orange County Speedway on April the 26th. Another of my tracks where I've announced Ace Speedway. My buddies over there in Altima Hall, they have some new folks leading the charge over there this year. You guys race there on Friday night, May the 3rd. That's always one of the great events in the area. And, I was looking at the schedule, and in 14 races, you guys only visit one track twice. And your first stop there will be on May the 13th when you go to yet another of Randy's tracks where he's been behind a microphone. And it's certainly maybe my all-time favorite, North Wilkesboro Speedway on May the 13th. Talk about you've been at Wilkesboro Modified. Talk about the idea of going there in the Cars Tour.
Wilkesboro is special. From the time you walk in the gate, you get chills almost just because all the history there. And that's the Cup All-Star weekend too. So it's going to be a really big race. I'm sure there's going to be some Cup guys racing with us, and then there's the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour race on Sunday, the day of the Cup race that I'm planning on running as of right now. So it's gonna be really cool.
That was going to be one of my questions, Carson. Was are you going to run any more modified races? And you led right into it. So you will be doing the double at North Wilkesboro. It sounds like.
That's the plan, as long as everything goes smooth. So yeah, 2 races in I think 5 days.
That's pretty cool, man. My home track currently, Caraway Speedway. I'm going to be there a lot this year. I won't be there at every week, but certainly Wednesday night, July the 2nd. Man, that's a Wednesday night show right before the 4th of July weekend. The whole world is watching. That one ought to be a pretty good one, too, down at Caraway Speedway on July 2nd.
For sure. Caraway is actually one of the ones I got circled on my calendar just because I got so much seat time there. I'm really looking forward to Caraway. I got a lot of success there, too. And that's another one that I'll be doing as the plan sticks right now, that I'll be doing the double duty that week is Caraway with the Cars Tour on Wednesday and then the Smart Tour on Saturday.
Man, that sounds like a heck of a week right there, buddy. I'm envious. Your buddy Connor Hall, did you have a chance to chat with Connor on his way out the door at for driving the number 22 car, and did he share any insight with you? How did that go?
For sure. These past over the offseason, me and Connor's actually became pretty good friends. He actually helped me a lot at Florence. I was struggling in qualifying, and that showed in qualifying. But he helped me a lot in Florence in qualifying, gave me a few tips. So, yeah, me and Connor have definitely grown our friendship these past couple months.
And for the folks that aren't aware, didn't hear the news, Connor Hall, the reigning and 2-time NASCAR National Division I champion, moving on to Junior Motorsports. He's going to be driving the car that Carson Loftin has, wheeled quite successfully to championships and wins over there at Junior Motorsports. He's going to be a part of that program over there, which begat Josh Berry, who we saw in action in the Clash over at the Madhouse. And it's like a whole chain of events opened up for you to have this opportunity, didn't it?
For sure. Just super, super thankful for everything that's happened. A year ago today, I would have never believed the shoes I'd be sitting in right now. So just super thankful, trying to soak it all in still. But I know we still got a lot of goals to go out there and capture this year.
I was going to ask you now, I'm not putting any pressure on you, but and everybody knows that 22 car, starting all the way back with my buddy Timothy Peters, who I know from my days at Strutmasters. He drove our truck there. We sponsored him in the truck series and known Timothy a long time. And he was one of the ones that helped get that program off the ground and made it a winning program. And of course, we mentioned Kernersville's Bobby McCarty put that car in championship mode 3 different times. It's won a lot of races. What is your mindset this year? Are you feeling any pressure at all? And what are your goals for this 2025 season?
I feel like pressure is a privilege, so I do feel a little bit of pressure. But I feel like coming in this year, I got a couple of goals in mind. And I think one of them being win a couple of races, at least win one. I feel like that's pretty realistic, and chase after a championship. I think these Nelson Motorsports guys should have had one last year, but lost it right at the end there. So try to bring them a championship home.
Well, I think Carson Loftin, that all the modified fans here in the greater Winston-Salem area, we're going to forgive you for putting the fenders on that car, man. We're certainly going to miss watching you in action each and every week on the Smart Tour. We're all glad to hear that you are going to run some modified races. And on behalf of all of us modified fans here in the Triad, we want to wish you the very, very best of luck as you represent our area in the Cars Tour in 2025.
Thank you. I appreciate it. That's what I was telling you before the show. These modifieds got my heart, and I don't want to give them up quite yet. So yeah, I'm going to plan to do about a handful of modified races, but primarily racing the late model as my primary.
All right, folks. Well, there you have it. Carson Loftin, the teenager who is moving away from the Smart Modifieds into the Cars Late Model Stock Car Tour and to one of the most cherished rides in America, the famed red and white number 22 car. And we all look forward to watching Carson Loftin in action starting on March the 1st down in Jacksonville, North Carolina. You can watch him on streaming TV, but there's nothing like going to the track. Well, until then, we thank you for listening on the Tobacco Road Sports Radio Network to The Pit Stop. I'm your host, Randy Pettitt, and may all your days be race days.